Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Just had some questions recently, including very recently. What other components need to be replaced when raising the vehicle, like doing a 2-inch lift? So what we're going to do, we're going to put this vehicle up and have a look underneath at some of the various suspension components and what our experiences lead us to believe what components do or don't need to be replaced and why. So let's get it up in the air and have a look. Now I'm sure all the regulars know it. This is underneath our 120 Prado, and I just wanted to point out that it doesn't always get a massive wash down after every time it gets used, okay? So if it gets taken off road and a little bit of mud and this and that, we're careful to avoid things. We're careful not to damage our fuel tank, right, and things like that. But what I'm trying to point out is, yeah, it gets dirty. Things get dirty, and they don't always get cleaned up. Do you know what I mean? Once it gets a bit worse, you'll get a good clean up every now and then because, you know, it needs it. You need to do a good clean up every now and then. So, suspension components that need to be replaced at the same time as raising the vehicle 2-inch lift. What do we got? All right, let's look at the front first and go through some of the components, because obviously a few people here with us don't necessarily know what all the components are. So if we were to talk about them, UCAs, LCAs, whatever, people are going to be going, mate, you know, you're like talking another language. So fair enough, eh? Absolutely. Not everybody's done the time at TAFE or college to learn all the theory, to do all the theory work on motor vehicles, okay? So not everybody knows what all the components are. And you know what? I'll probably call something the wrong thing, and sometimes I do that and I even correct myself and then I go ahead and call it the wrong thing again, if you haven't noticed. This is definitely a bash plate from Kaon. This is your lower control arm, okay? That's what we're going to call it on this vehicle. Lower control arm, okay? So the pivot point's in here. There's a couple of bushes here. Is that work? Does my pointer work? See, got my pointer this time. Right, so front bush, there's another one at the rear, back about up. You probably can't see it quite in the picture. Sort of maybe up here. Is that in the picture? Yeah, kind of. Anyway, lower control arm, 2 rubber bushes. On the other end, you've got your ball joint. Comes out here that joins onto the steering knuckle. That's kind of like the piece that the bearing mounts onto, that the drive shaft comes in the back to. This is your drive shaft. You know, you can call it a CV shaft, drive shaft, whatever. This is a shaft that drives the vehicle, so it's a drive shaft. At each end there's a CV joint, which stands for constant velocity joint. Now, I just want to start by saying this is all Toyota genuine quality, and that's the way I like it to stay. So there's your short answer to the question. That's the way I like it to stay. Genuine sway bar, genuine link pins, linking when they talk about link pins and stuff. This could be the ones we're talking about, not always, but that links the sway bar to that steering knuckle, which is then connected to your upper control arm as well. Okay, so upper control arm. So let's go to the top and work our way down. So the upper control arm, up here, see that arm there? Same deal. Comes around in a kind of like a D shape. There's a bush at each end. Generally, we don't see problems with those bushes. These ball joints, same thing. Generally, we don't see issues with those. Seeing a bit of oil staining or whatever, that doesn't matter. That's just movement. A little bit of grease has got moisture, oily type substance. A little bit's going to come out, especially as the vehicles get older. Dust is going to stick to it. That's all pretty normal, as long as it doesn't get too much worse than that. And you should sort of check for playing them from time to time, but we generally don't see any issues with those. So we're not going to talk about things we don't see issues with. I like to leave them alone, okay? Same with the lower control arms. I like genuine. I like the arms, I like the bushes, I like the whole vehicle, I like the genuine drive shaft, CV joints, inner rack ends, tie ends, whatever you call it, the boots, everything, all genuine. So I hope that answers your question. The only thing that you're going to change is your tyres, right? These are the tyres, you know what tyres are. And your struts. Now let's go to why you're going to change those. Well, for some people, they don't need to change them. If you've got a new vehicle and the suspension's in new condition still, unless you're going to do a lot of remote outback trips and punish it down corrugated roads and rough roads, you can probably get away with a stock suspension. You may even get away with it if you do that, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. These are a lot stronger. These are the Dominson's monotubes, okay? So you can see it's a lot stronger. There's no welding there. There's nothing there to break. It is a solid bit of kit, very solid. These bushes at the bottom are also as awesome. Now, what we like about it is the strength upgrade is number one. I should have grabbed an old strut and put it in front of you so I can show you why we don't like. But you can have a look at your own car. You'll see an upright pin around about here. We'll call it a pin because it's about as small as a pin. It's probably about, look, 15, 16 mil in diameter. I'm taking a guess. I haven't measured it. It's around about the same thickness as these tie-down points, right? Tie-down points. No, they're not tie-down points. That's what people call them. That's another video, right? They're toe points. But anyway, another video. It's probably already in another video. We'll do it again another time. About 16 mil, 17 mil, somewhere around there. What can happen? They're just welded at the bottom, okay? There's two little spot welds at the bottom. They can break those welds, the pins can bend, things like that. So you upgrade, the primary reason is to increase the strength in this area here, even though it's a rare problem, so you don't have to do it. What's the other reason we upgrade? Well, basically, length, travel. So travel is probably number two. So number one is reliability by upgrading to something really solid like this. As I said, these are the monotubes. The Dominson's twin tubes, they've even got an increased diameter size, and there's a 360-degree weld where it goes around the bottom, so a lot stronger than the OEM struts. So it's all about strength. There's nothing wrong with their operation. It's all about strength of this part here and also the length, okay? So aftermarket suspension has generally got more travel, more length, open length if you like. Now, what the balance is, you've got to be careful because there's got to be a balance. Because have a look at the angles, everything on. You've got an angle on your what do you call it? So here we go again, right? The uni joint on the rack end, the inner rack end, okay? You've got an angle on that. You've got twist happening on your bushes here of your lower control arms as they go up and down. The bushes are twisting, right? The bushes only, I can't remember if it's 30% or 30 degrees. I think we'll roll with 30 degrees. Bushes only accept twist up to about 30 degrees before they start to go to pieces, right? So by having too much travel down, it's going to put more twist on these bushes up the top here and damage those, okay? So that's one problem with too much travel. It's a problem with not enough travel, is basically just not having your wheels on the ground. You want to have more travel so your wheel comes down more and stays on the ground, what we call flex, you know, lift a wheel, not, sort of, that travel up and down, allow the vehicle to flex. You're never going to get a lot of it out of an independent suspension vehicle without making major modifications. So this is where it comes in. These suspension, excuse me, COVID-19, achoo. Anyway, anyone else around? Excuse me again. I tell you, I wouldn't want to be around here now in case I've got it. But anyway, that's the whole idea, see? In a few minutes, you won't know that I just sneezed. You won't know, would you? So if you're in the supermarket, someone just did that and you walk through it and breathe it in, and they're one of the people that's been around one of the people that's been around one of the people, you could be in trouble. And if you're not, and you think you're okay, and then you're around other people because you think you're okay, but you've actually got it and you're not showing symptoms yet, and you're spreading your germs around too, because by talking and breathing, it's in the air. So distance, guys. Now back on topic. See what happened? That wasn't planned. I just sneezed and then there it is, coronavirus. It's all about coronavirus and not spreading it at the moment. So it just popped out. Okay. Control arms, travel. Okay, what was I saying? So not enough travel. You haven't got enough flex kind of thing. That can cause problems with your suspension, right? So say the thing, let's go back to what we said in the first place, raising the vehicle. What raises the vehicle? The spring is what does that. See up here? See this green thing? Dominson's coil spring. There's a number of different brands of springs, different colours, different spring rates and different heights and all sorts of things, right? What I'd like to drop out there is an up to 50 millimetres of suspension lift is generally legal in most states. Check in your own state. This is general information, accurate at the time of publishing and subjects to change without notice. Change without giving you notice at any time without notice, or at any time without notice, whatever. Whichever, you got to say it in every different way for legal reasons. Anyway, general information, right? 50 mil lift is generally legal, subject to other things like tyre size upgrades and stuff like that. If you've changed these, that can affect that as well. So it's really deep and I'd suggest lift's more important than changing the tyres. These are standard size tyres now. This is a 2-inch lift, well, about 40 mil at the front, about 50 at the rear. Now, if you put a longer spring to raise the vehicle, that takes the suspension up towards the end of the suspension travel, if you know what I mean. You've lost 50 mil of that. You had around about 100 mil to go, I think, from just going from memory. I haven't taken exact measurements for years, but let's say from being on the ground to jacking up, you got a bit over 100 mil, right? So there's not a lot of travel there already. By raising it up 50 mil, what do you got left to go down? 50 mil? Yeah, not good. That's where you need a bit more travel. So we're re-engineering the vehicle and all these angles to a point where it's got to be more to be okay, because if you don't have that travel and that shocker's topping out all the time, when I say top out, that's when you go over a hole and your wheel drops down, so this whole arrangement comes down, the suspension, the strut's topping out, and that can damage the internals of that, okay? So you don't want that to be happening more than it needs to be. That's why you go for a bit longer travel. So one reason, strength. The other one is for travel, so that you can keep your wheel on the ground and so that you're not topping out your suspension that you've just spent money on and damaging it. Okay, so the right length's important because there's a lot of different brands out there and some are too long. Okay, and what happens when it's too long is too much angle here. We talked about the damage to the rubber bushes, possible damage to these CV joints here. Generally not the outer one. What happens is the inner one, it's like a tripod. The inner one's like the front. This one here on the outer, it's like locked in. It's not going anywhere, right? Inside this joint, it's not going anywhere. You can't pull it out. It's not coming out. It's never coming out again, basically. General information. This one here can come out quite easily. The way it works is, it's like a cup. The section that goes into the front diff is like a cup, and it's like a tripod that goes into that cup. It's got bearings on each end of it and it slides up and down. We've probably shown you in other videos, but I'm not sure. So again, we'll get around to it again another time. If I forget what I've done, I'll do it again. If I've done it 2 or 3 times, sorry, but at least the people that didn't see the first time, that don't go back and search the older videos, at least they get a chance. I still suggest you search the older videos. What can happen once you've got too much travel? Obviously, it's like the length of this shortens. It's pulling out of the cup. It's pulling out that way, which means that tripod up here, you can actually step out. It'll put one leg out of bed, and then with all that torque, you've got all that low range torque. Think about the engine, the torque of the engine through the diff, low range, massive amounts of power and torque. And it's kind of like using a uni joint, okay? If you've got a ratchet, an extension and a socket and you've got your uni joint there and you put it on a too large an angle, you know, it kind of cocks up and goes to pieces. Well, that's what will happen with a CV joint if you've got too much travel. Quite common on the Hiluxes, particularly ones that have been set up with too much travel, happens all the time. Not on the Prados. Most of the gear out there is the right length. And if people go and put, you know, Hilux struts in and different part numbers trying to re-engineer the things themselves, they're the ones that generally have problems, the ones with major modifications, which is what comes back to what I said at the start. I'd rather you leave all of this alone, except for this part here and that part there. Spring to raise it, shock for reliability, and for extra length so it doesn't damage itself. Let's use an example. Say you were to put a spring on the old strut. That would work. That'll give you 50 mil lift. It's going to top out a bit, so it's going to get damaged. And then if you go on a trip, you might bend and break this, or the welds might break, depending where you're going. It may work for some people, okay? There's no harm in doing that. If you need to get away with it in these harsh times of viruses and you have finding yourself without money or less money, you can get away with putting springs on top of the original struts. You can do that. You can put just springs in, absolutely. I'm not here to sell you anything you don't need. I'll tell you all the tricks and everything. You can raise your vehicle 2 inches. You can call me out. I'll send you 2 coil springs, about $500 just to touch over. Maybe it depends where you are, freight wise, how much it is. Bada bing, you got a 2-inch lift, okay? So you can do that, and you'll be on stock struts and shockers on Dobinson's coil springs, okay? So there's a way to get things done. Okay, by having too much travel, not only does it put stress on these bushes and these drive shafts, it puts stress on everything, okay? So you just don't need to change anything. Now, where you need to sort of start changing things, or perhaps you might need to start changing things, is if you go, oh yeah, I want a 60 mil or a 70 mil or 80, you know, I want a 3-inch lift or something like that. And look, each to their own, everyone wants something different. Besides being illegal and costing yourself a lot more money, because you're going to have to go and get it engineered or be illegal and have no insurance or whatever you choose to do, you know, what was the point? Then you're going to have to go spend all this other money, and there's sway bar links you might change, and people change lower control arms and upper control arms and all sorts of things. You just don't need to do it. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it Toyota. Keep it reliable. This is a Toyota. This gear here, reliable. These springs, reliable. There's no issue changing that. Keep your adjustments to a minimum. And I'll suggest that what's legal is a good balance. It's a good balance on the vehicle. On a Prado, about 40 mil at the front's ideal, okay? 40 to 50 mil, a little bit under 40, depends what you're doing. If you're touring, even 30's fine, okay? The rear, it's important to possibly get it up a bit higher if you go and hit some tracks. And that's because you want to get your fuel tanks up. They're the things that are most vulnerable. There you go, I spat that word out correctly and I didn't have to think of what word it just came out. Vulnerable, right? They are at that midpoint of the vehicle, right in the middle of the ramp over. Quite often that front main fuel tank gets hit, but we've talked about that in other videos. The reason you want to get the rear up is to get both those tanks up and give yourself a bit more clearance. Okay, so to answer your question, do you need to change upper and lower control arms and all that? No, you don't. Now, how did all that start? It's got to do with wheel alignment, okay? Because when you raise the vehicle to a certain point, it's going to get to the point where your camber and your caster is adjusted at these lower control arms here, both front and rear. The combination of those adjustments is your camber and your caster, okay? Basically, you may not, with a lift, most vehicles are fine, but some you might not be able to get it within specification. But my point is you don't have to get it within specification. Prados don't wear tyres, as long as it's even both sides and as close as you can to specifications. Okay, so you've got a problem if, say one side they adjust that to specification, they get to the other side and they go, oh, we can't get it, but we got it as close as we could. But it's different to the other side. That's where you got a problem. It's going to drive average, it's going to pull here, pull there, or maybe they can't do wheel alignment anyway. It doesn't drive well. Not cool. So it's got to be even both sides. You've got to get as close as you can to spec, even both sides, because if one's different to the other, that's where it's going to pull. It's going to do weird things on you, right? And when you got camber on the road and that sort of thing. So both sides have got to be even. What wears tyres is the way you drive. It's tyre pressures, and it's also toe in here, which is done adjusting this here, right? That adjusts your toe in. That's how much your tyres point in and out, in case you didn't know, okay? That's what wears tyres, and the other thing is worn components. So people that go hard and jump speed humps and they're rough on the vehicle and they don't let tyres down. Hitting things chops out bushes and things, you know, ramming things. And then all those components slop around a lot more under brakes, you know, hitting speed humps on the brakes. Take it easy in that shopping centre car park. Slow down. It's a 20k speed limit probably anyway. Slow down. Watch out for people. Watch out for kids. Watch out for someone backing up. If someone starts backing up, stop. Bit of courtesy. Let them out. And then drive slowly again. Okay? When you come up to a speed hump, your best bet is to slow down before it. Release the brake as you go over it. Allow the suspension to do its work without having the added pressure of the tyre pulling rearward force on that whole arm and that whole setup, which is going to damage your bushes, okay? Think about that. So, there's your long answer to what components need to be changed when doing a 2-inch lift. The springs, the struts are not a must, but it's a good combination to do the springs and the struts together, and nothing else at the front. You just get yourself a nice solid bash plate, 4mm thick, quality Australian made and engineered from kaon.com.au, and it doesn't matter what you hit under there, it isn't going to bend, it's not going to get damaged. Next time you need to take it off to do an diff oil change or inspection, whatever you're going to do, on and off, it's going to be on and off easy because they don't bend. They're easy to fit and refit and remove, where a lot of the other brands, anything that's 3mm, so we're going off topic now, aren't we? Anything that's 3mm, it bends, then it's hard to get off, hard to get on. It's a disaster, okay? Let's go and have a look at the rear and see if there's anything in there we need to replace. Okay, we're bringing it up the rear now, and I thought we better just have a look at the same deal, those components to have a look at. Now, someone's going to notice maybe a bit of a sweat on that rear remote reservoir. You are correct. I have noticed a sweat there also. I'll say two things about that. We don't see a lot of remote reservoir suspension. I'm told that you can just replace the seals or something like that, I think they said, but Look, what I'd say is it's not a leak, there's no drip. It's the slightest sweat. It's been the same for probably not from the, I don't know if I want to say from the start or a few months. How long have they been in for first? Coming up on 2 years. And it's not an issue as far as I'm concerned. I haven't had a look at the other one lately. I just noticed it's in the picture. The other one seems dry. So it's not a leak, it's not a massive thing. It's just the sweat there. It hasn't been washed. We'll let you know if you stay tuned, you know, the subscribe thing, and you're keeping an ear on what's happening. I'll let you know if there's any further updates on that, if it gets worse, if it stays the same forever, if I speak to a Dobinson and they tell me what advice, you know what I mean, whatever the advice is. But in my opinion, there's not an issue. A lot of suspension has little sweats here or there. It's generally not a leak till it's a drip, and that includes other brands that, you know, if it's a sweat all the way to the bottom, it could be a bit different. It could have been a leak that's dried up, but in this case, it's all fairly good. I thought I'd just cover that before we go any further. I'm going to say one other thing, totally off topic. That fuel filler hose up there, if you've got a 120 Prado and you haven't replaced it, that's the one you want to replace, okay? Since I'm in a good mood, I'm going to do a special for anyone that watches this video. For Monday, the last Monday in March 2020, we'll call it Coronavirus March 2020. Anyone who calls me by around 9-10 a.m. Monday morning Melbourne time to place an order for any of our parts kits, whether it's the timing belt, water pump front engine kit, or the injector kit, or a suction control valve. No, I can't do it with a suction control valve. Actually, how many have I got there? I haven't got many. I was going to say I'll do you a deal and throw it in for free. Look, I'll do you a deal. Ring me and say, hey, I want a deal on that fuel hose, and I'll do you a deal. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know how many I've got, and obviously first in, best dressed. So we'll have a look. I'll do you a deal if I can, whether it's the hose or a discount or whatever, mate. We're in discount moods. Okay, bada boom, bada bing. It's all good. So to raise the rear of the vehicle 50 mil, all you need to put in is these coil springs, okay? Simple as that. We've got other videos on installing front suspension, installing rear suspension. Just search our channel. Now, what are the components you need to replace the other components? Well, you don't need to replace the shockers. In the 150 Prado, for example, they've got not a bad length of travel. I'm pretty impressed. The earlier ones were a bit shorter, but at some stage they did make them a little bit longer, and I'm quite happy with that. What I'll say about the Dobinson's rear shockers, it's a perfect amount of travel. It's absolutely perfect. And there was a lot of things Dobinson's made changes over the years, and I had some input with, and I'm not sure if that was one of them, because I'm certainly not perfect, but it's damn perfect. And I think I might have said, I reckon, about that or a bit longer. Anyway, what I want to say is the balance of the full extension of that open shocker and the sway bar, the standard sway bar with the standard sway bar links being stretched out at exactly the same time, gives you maximum travel. And the brake lines, see that? It's kind of tight, but it's not putting it under any pressure that's going to cause any issues, including the ABS line over here. Plenty of room still. So if you went any longer, you're going to put at risk making it dangerous by putting stress on these brake lines, okay? Which, like I said, it might look like it in the picture. That's why I'm giving you the example. Just go like that. I can just see there's plenty of movement in them still. So they're perfect, okay? If there was perfect, this is it. Both the sway bar and those link pins, the original genuine ones are best. Those ones on this vehicle are nearly 400,000 k's old. They've never been changed. That's why they're the best. They've never come loose. They've never fallen off. They've never had a problem. They're perfect in length. They're engineered by Toyota. Keep it Toyota. Never buy any aftermarket link pins, and if you do, some people have changed them back because they have problems with them. The bolts come loose, different things, but we don't go into that. We're trying to stay positive. I'm saving you money. You don't need to buy anything else. Some places will tell you need a panhard. Right, that's this one and going across here. What does this do? At this end, it's connected to the diff, as you can see. The other end is connected to the body of the car. This primary job, this bar, is to stop the diff moving left to right. Now, if you do about a 50 mil lift, no, you don't need another one of those. Absolutely not. But you might want one if you've got money to spend still and you're just a bit excited and you just want to go and buy stuff. You can get one. It's adjustable. And by making it adjustable in length, what that does, allows you to adjust where this diff is. left and right of the vehicle. Because what happens, as you can imagine, see it's on an angle, right, like this. As the diff goes up and as the diff goes down, it doesn't change in length, but it's like it changes in length. It pulls your diff left and right on the vehicle, right? So as you raise the vehicle, the diff goes to the driver's side of the vehicle, okay? So it moves to the right, if you like. Which, if this is maxed out, right? I'll give you an example at the moment. This is like on the hoist, we're at full extension, at full droop. So as a maximum, I'm just going to take a visual and tell you where I think it is, right? I think this diff, at that point, it's probably 15 mil to the right of the vehicle. Now, it still tracks straight, it's still pointing straight ahead, but your diff's probably 15 mil to the right. Now, when it goes on the ground, so this is not the level it always sits at, this is when it's totally raised. When it's on the ground, it's just going to be maybe 10 mil or less or something like that. So it's not something you need here either. You don't need a panner. You don't need to change it. We'll call these rear trailing arms at the bottom. You don't need to change them. The upper trailing arms, you don't need to change them until those bushes are split pretty badly. I don't know if you can see in this picture up there. See these bushes up in here, and there's another one up there. When they get old and split, then you get a genuine Toyota one of these, upper trailing arm. You can call it control arm if you like, control arm, trailing arm. You know, we're going to call them trailing arms. So then when we say we're talking about the rear, we're talking about trailing arms, upper trailing arm, lower trailing arm. When we talk about the front of the vehicle, we say upper control arm, lower control arm, because they're not trailing or anything, right? They're control arms, right? So hopefully that's the right term. That's what we're going to use anyway. If I talk in a video and say trailing arm or control arm, that's what I'm talking about. Trailing arms at the rear, control arms at the front. Okay. There's nothing else here. No, you don't need to change your brake lines. See those? They're fine. 400,000 Ks, 12 years old, no problem. We don't see problems with brake lines. If you've got money to spend and you want to just throw more money at the car, hey, go ahead, buy genuine brake lines and replace them, because there's nothing wrong with fresh brake lines, but make sure you know what you're doing, because when it comes to brakes, it's a matter of life and death. Just want to give that a little tweak. It was a little bit, probably from, you know, axles have been out, whatever. Not bad, but, you know, the other side's similar as well, so give that a little. Okay, so you need to know how to bleed brakes properly, definitely, if you're going to do stuff like that, okay? It is a matter of life and death if the vehicle doesn't stop as it's planned to, right? Not only you, your family, other people and their families, right? So just, they had nothing to do with it, so you really need to know what you're doing, with a lot of work on vehicles. So as always, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Okay, information. So, springs you need to change, shockers optional. Okay, we're pretty happy with the rear shockers, right? But of course these are going to work better. I'm not promoting the remote reservoirs, you don't necessarily need those. Some people they would work better for. At this stage I'm probably saying for what's available on the market right now, because Dobinson's, we're testing some adjustables of these on the other vehicle, and I love them, they're awesome, but you can't get them yet, so let's not talk about those. I don't want you to get excited. At the moment, I still like the Dobinson's twin tubes at the rear, okay? The yellow ones. I like the monotubes at the front, therefore you've got black at the front and yellow at the rear. Some people are happy with that. That's the best combo in my opinion. Dobinson's monotubes all around, that's good too. Twin tubes all around, that's good too. So it all depends what your budget and what your use is. That's why I say if you want suspension, give me a call, we'll discuss it, we'll make it happen. But you don't need any other components, okay? So I gave you the short answer at the start. While it's up, just grab this, your diff breather, and give it a bit of a twist, make sure it's all good. If it feels tight and dirty or anything like that, I don't know if you can see that in the picture, but it's in other videos anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's why you got to watch the other videos. If you think that's, you know, whatever, then you might want to just give it a bit of a twist and a play and spray a bit of brake cleaner or something, a bit of compressed air, make sure it's all clean so it can work. It needs to breathe, it needs to be able to go, if it's clean it can go up and down. When you go in and to the water and this cools down and it'll suck that down, that's how water doesn't get in, right? It works, trust me, I've been heaps of river crossings in this vehicle and other Prados, not a drop of water in this diff. Plenty of customers' car, no water. There's one that I found a heap of water in. I don't know what he was doing really, but I'm tipping maybe there was an issue with the breather and it was staying open because it was covered in mud. Bit of a crazy man. Hopefully he watches the video and he knows who I'm talking about. I'm not going to name him. I'm sure he wouldn't be embarrassed anyway. But and some people are probably thinking it's them. No, it's not you, unless you live in Ferntree Gully. If you live in Ferntree Gully, that's you. Anyway, he's having a laugh now. Anyway, it's all good. But there was a lot of water in the diff. It didn't matter anyway. So while we're talking about diffs, diff breathers, no, you don't need them. The water that was in there, it floated on the top, mate. We got rid of the, change the oil, fix it up, new oil, happy days, mate. Never a problem. So there's no water in diffs. Water doesn't seem to do issues. You don't want water in your transmission, okay? That's going to be a problem. But that's up high, that breather, so happy days. Anyway, back on topic. I'm dribbling too much now. The last thing I wanted to say is, I've said this before, many videos ago, I said, we've got our Facebook groups and a couple of pages, and we've got some groups, and of course, I'm Anthony Prado 4B on Facebook. If you want, I get a lot of friend requests, obviously, tons and tons. I don't mind, that's fine, okay? It's a business thing, you need to follow the information. Absolutely, let's stay connected. If you like my information on motor vehicles and you want to see my information on other subjects as well, then there's other groups and there's other pages as well. And if you want to stay connected, hit the friend button. But if you can, just shoot me a message. Put a photo on your profile. Put a photo of your Prado, your Hilux or something, or put something there so that I know you're real. New profiles, it's hard to approve because I don't know who it is, some troller, And if you haven't got any pictures up, whatever, then who's this, I get a lot of requests just in general. So it's not always a genuine friend request to follow Prado, Hilux, motor vehicle information. It can be just some weirdo troller, whatever. So of course I decline those. So don't take it the wrong way. If you get declined, you may have got mixed up with those. If you want, you can even do this. You can send me a friend request and then text to the mobile, say, hey Anth, send me your full name, as it is on Facebook, or your real name, one or the other, or both would be good, and say, I've just sent you a friend request. That way when I see it, I'll go, oh yeah, I don't need a long story, that's all I need. Hey mate, just sent you a friend request because I want to follow your info, right? We've got we've got a few groups on other different subjects as well. Some people like what I've got to say, so if you want to listen to it, this is not the only place. We've got another YouTube channel as well. It's not really vehicle related, it's more trip information related, so you can learn about places, nice scenery, how to use the vehicles, stuff like that. It's not all for adventure, it's even better. No, not yet. Of course, we don't spend, it's time, but it will get better, as this channel hopefully has. And I've just got to remember to zip that up sometimes. Keep those opinions to yourself. Zip. That zip up tight. But if you want to know those opinions on other things, Facebook's the place. Friend Anthony Prado 4B, and I look forward to communicating with you soon. I hope that answers your questions. Again, the long version, because we put the reasons why. It's not just, some places just want to sell you stuff. They don't tell you why. They'll tell you what they want to tell you, don't they? So I could have a shop with a website and sell you all these components directly. As I said before, I'm not fussy. I need some business, obviously, to pay bills. But I appreciate the support, absolutely, and thank everyone for all your support so far, and look forward to supporting you. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe, keep your ear out for some more information coming your way, and check out the older videos. Work your way back through slowly, there's a whole heap of info there. And don't forget, if you have made a purchase, either the injector kit, or the suspension, or the big front engine kit, or the Prado front wheel bearings, and I'm just going to mention we are in the process of setting up to be able to supply the Hilux front hubs already assembled, ready to go, like the Prado ones we do. Okay, so that's something else we're going to be doing just to help you guys out, because there's been some requests. We've been saying, oh no, we don't do those. If we get a lot of requests of something, then that's what we do. We do what we're asked to do, if you know what I mean. We do as you're told. With a suction control valve, you can get in the VIP group, but it's a short period. It's like, a month or something, unless you've been really nice and done some contributing posts, whatever. It's more of a loyalty thing. Once you spend an amount of money, you're in the VIP group. If you buy injectors, you're in for life. So you get the information that's in there, plus the information that's coming. So people tell me it's really awesome. And then the videos on doing injectors just absolutely make it so easy, 10 out of 10. So what I want to say is, if you've purchased those parts and you haven't joined the VIP group, it's on Facebook. So the way to find it is, you go on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, you've got to join Facebook. So you join John Prado or John Hilux or Steve Hilux, whatever you want, right? Put a picture of your Hilux on the side. You don't have to put your rego. You don't have to put your family photos and that. Just have a profile, just like on a forum. You had a fake name. You can kind of have whatever, as long as it's a nickname of yours. And as far as I'm concerned, Nick Prado or Nick Hilux is your nickname, isn't it, right? So get onto Facebook, search groups. So go search groups, go into groups and search, and you type in the names I've shown you in other videos, right? The first one being my name, Anthony Prado Forby. Hit the friend button. Then you can connect with all the other groups that you're interested in, because it should all link up one way or the other. Oz Prado Crew is the main one. I've said that before for Prado owners. The point is, once you're on there, search that VIP group. It's called 4x4 Diesel VIPs. Okay, just like this YouTube channel, 4x4 Diesel VIPs, VIP, S. That's a group. You find it. You're asked to join. You answer the questions. You will only be accepted if you have purchased the parts. If your name is different on Facebook to your real name you've purchased parts in, you need to write that in the answer to one of the questions so that we can link it up. Only purchasers will be allowed into the VIP group, so waste the time trying to join if you haven't done that. The point I'm trying to make is, though, lots of people have purchased parts and they haven't joined that group yet, so I'm a bit concerned they haven't seen the right information when they've installed their injectors. Not so good. Anyway, there's the long answer to what components do you need to replace when you do a 2-inch lift. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy. See ya.